Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order of the Brockton Zoning Board of Appeals for July 2025. The members voting on tonight's cases will be member Steve Lianis, Monique Greenberry, Fire Chief Brian Nardelli, Mr. James Sweeney, and myself, Chair Kenneth Galligan. Our zoning enforcement officer tonight is our Deputy Building Inspector, William Forte. Our recording secretary is Monica Fagazzo. Before we get started tonight, if you have a cell phone or electronic device, I would appreciate it if you either shut it off or put it on vibrate silent so it doesn't affect the meeting. This meeting is being televised, audio recorded, televised. It's going to be shown numerous times throughout the next month, or this month I should say, on Brockton Cable TV. Prior to the start of the hearing tonight, there is an opportunity for anyone to withdraw. Prior to the start of tonight's meeting, we have a withdrawal that has been requested, and that is case number 2544, the petition of Cindy Cabrera Germain Fernandez, 223 Copeland Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance, seeking relief from section 27.9 and 27.25 to convert an existing second floor of a garage into an ADU, an additional dwelling unit, in an R1B zone located 223 Copeland Street. This case is being postponed until the August meeting in deference to the petitioner to get additional information that's required for this hearing. So if you're here for that case tonight, it will not be heard. It will be heard next month at the August meeting. Prior to the start of tonight's meeting, is there anyone that wants to withdraw? Everybody's good. All right, the way the meeting will proceed tonight is I will call the case. The petitioner will come up to the podium, introduce yourself, give your name and address to the clerk, present your case to the board. When you have finished presenting your case, I will ask the board members if they have any questions relative to the testimony that was just given. When those questions are complete, I will close that portion of the hearing and then open it up for public discussion. At that point, if there is anyone here that wants to speak in favor of the petition, that would be your opportunity. Anyone that wants to speak in opposition, if there's any elected official in the room that wants to be heard on the issue, or lastly, if there's anybody in the room that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given. At the end of that section of the hearing, I will close it, and I will now open it up for discussion among the board members. Now, this is the time when the board members will deliberate among themselves. It's not open to the public. After the board has deliberated, you will probably hear one of the board members make a motion to grant. If that is seconded, I will ask the clerk to please call the roll. In order for a petition to pass, if there are all 5 affirmative votes, the petition will be granted. If there are 4 affirmative votes and 1 negative, the petition will be granted. Anything less than that, the petition will be denied. After the clerk tells me the result of the vote, I will notify the petitioner whether or not the petition has been granted. And I think that is it. All right. All right, board members, we all set? Everybody ready? All right, the first case tonight is case number 2542, the petition of Thelwell Group LLC, 31 Lowell Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance, seeking relief from section 27.9, table 1, to construct a 2-family dwelling lacking frontage and area in an R2 and C2 zone located at 737 Warren Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, with your permission, I have the pleasure of representing the Thelwell Group LLC and Isaiah Thelwell. I'm here today with Scott Barrier, and we're seeking permission from this board to allow the construction of a 2-family home in an R2 zone that's lacking in frontage and lacking in area. As you can see from the plan, it's kind of a unique layout. the original property as constituted had basically an L-shaped or perpendicular, whatever you want to call it, shape, in which the property that is remaining on Warren Avenue is totally within a commercial zone. The area which is now Lot A along Packard Way, which is a long-standing mature residential street, is entirely zoned R2 residential. So the uniqueness of this specific property is that you essentially, as constituted prior to the development, could never do anything in Lot A representing a commercial use without getting a variance. Similarly, you can't do anything with the current portion in the residential side without getting a variance. So, and it's also the uniqueness in terms of the way the lot is constituted from its unique shape and the narrowness of the property. So the applicant seeks to have the board allow it to construct the property lacking in frontage. The frontage along Packard Way in that area all is undersized as it relates to the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The proposed home that is part of your package is tastefully done and will blend in exceptionally well. There's going to be 2 parking spaces for each unit, so a total of 4 parking spaces. And it is in fact going to be, I think, a development that's going to increase the amenities, the tax base, and the attractiveness of the Packard Avenue area. So to, I guess, recap, in order to secure a variance, you need circumstances related to the size, shape, topography, of soil conditions that uniquely affect the property, not the zoning district as a whole, that creates a hardship, financial or otherwise. Here, I think we easily meet the requirements of 48. It certainly is an extremely uniquely shaped parcel. It is intersected by 2 different zones, which make it basically economically unfeasible to utilize Lot A. And in fact, the, I guess, proximity to Packard Avenue and the narrowness of the lot, along with the consistent frontage within the Packard Way area, I think renders this a decision that the board can truly find a hardship. So Scott, go ahead and outline it if you would.
The only thing I'd like to add to Attorney Burke's proposal of the 2-family dwelling that we have proposed on Packard Way is kind of the typical 2-family that's been built in Brockton, the up and down 2-family that you see popping up everywhere. The structure itself meets the zoning requirements for the R2, and from past comments by this board, we've got 2 things that we added to the plan. One is the picket fence separating the 2 driveways, just to make sure they don't pave the entire front yard. I have it mistakenly labeled proposed unenclosed tree, but that should actually be a picket fence. The second thing that I have to add is one member in particular has asked for trees on all these lots, so I've added honey locust tree. I was going to call it a Sweeney tree, but I thought that would confuse people, so I've got a proposed honey locust tree right in the middle. And unfortunately, with the lot being 7 feet, we can really only put one just with the water and sewer services and utilities and woodwork. So we've got the 1 tree in the front and the picket fence that would prohibit anybody from parking on the green space in the front. So those are the 2 items that to go along with the Attorney Burke's presentation.
Mr. Chair, if I could. So I just want to disclose the fact that I do know the applicant serves in the planning department. I am a planning board member. I don't think it convolutes my decision. I couldn't read who the applicant even was until tonight, but I felt it's appropriate to bring that up and disclose.
Okay, it's full disclosure. Board members.
Did we not receive a plot plan on this? I see it in here, but we never, did we ever receive an actual copy?
I got a hard copy here.
Maybe my paper's good. All right, thank you. Oh, that's the other one. I'm sorry. I missed it. Yeah, I did see this earlier. I'm sorry.
In your presentation, you mentioned that this was located at both a C2 and an R2 zone.
Yes, sir.
You have been to the planning board, and they have divided this and allowed this to become a separate lot on,
They have one
Right.
entirely residential and one entirely commercial.
so the one we're dealing tonight is strictly the R2.
Correct.
Okay, secondly, the plan shows that there's going to be an exterior stairway on the back of the building? Or is the rear stairway going to be internal in the building? Remember?
I believe it's on the back of the building, chief, but
I thought I picked that up, that there was a deck in the back. Yeah, there is. Shows a deck in the back. So now, you've also got to request a special permit to allow for the construction of that exterior deck. So any, this is relatively new within the past year, that any deck that's on the outside of the building that is above the first floor needs a special permit from the zoning board. So if you have a deck on the back with 2 or 3 or 4 steps to go down a grade level, you don't need a special permit. But in this case here, it appears as though you have a deck on floor 1 and floor 2, and the exterior stairs goes down the back. So can you explain to the board why you need a special permit for that deck that's on the back? It's not a hardship, but just explain why that deck is in that location.
Well, I think in order for the developer to utilize what he thought was the most efficient layout for the property, along with the ability to get as much interior space as possible to increase the living area, that it created the necessity of using the exterior exit design as designed. So I think it is consistent with the surrounding area. It will be new, it will be attractive, and I don't think it presents any kind of a impediment or hardship, impactful or problematic in terms of safety, having the rear stairwell as designed.
My understanding of the reason for that ordinance was to at least have the zoning board have a look at proposed stairways on the exterior of these buildings, particularly those buildings where the third floor was being converted into housing, which needed a second means of egress. And over the years, there's been some pretty unique stairways that have been put in place. And I think the intent of the city was to have the zoning board make sure that a city agency was happy with what they saw on that. So I think what you explained makes sense, that there isn't room on the inside, and it looks as though it belongs on the building. Yep. Okay, so we've covered that. Board members, any other questions?
I don't have anything.
Everybody's good? All right. So basically, the variance that you're asking for is relief from frontage, which normally requires 100 feet of frontage. You have 60, and you normally would need 10,000 square feet for a two-family, and you have almost 8,000 square feet.
7,000.
So those are the two things that you're looking for on the variance, and the special permit for the rear stairway. All right. I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official in the room that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone in the room that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given tonight? Seeing none, I will close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I will now open it up for deliberation among board members. Board members.
I think it's an area amongst similar uses. I was actually driving by, I'm quite shocked it wasn't a two-family, to be honest with you. It melts right in, and I think the plan is suitable to sustain, including the parking, so I have no issue with it.
On discussion about off-street parking, it appears as though in the plan, they have provided stacking, one vehicle behind the other, which I don't see how else we can do that on this property if the front is going to remain as green space. And I think it's very important that the petitioner understands that this board, if this is granted, does not want to go back there a year from now and see that front yard all blacktopped across the front. And you're telling us that you're going to put some type of a fence that will prevent parking on the green space in the front? Okay, good. So I think we need to discuss that. And the other discussion would be, of course, on the rear stairway. Anybody got any questions, comments on the rear stairway?
No.
Looks pretty standard to me.
Yep.
No? Looks good.
A motion to grant.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion made and seconded to grant with the stipulations that the green space shall remain in the front, and we are allowing stacked parking on each side of the dwelling. Was that all that we discussed?
The special permit for the deck.
And it shall be used for no more than 2 families.
Correct.
All right, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lannis,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry.
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5-0 in the affirmative.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted with those stipulations.
Thank you, board.
Next petition is 2543, the petition of Emmanuel Lamy, 25 Woodlawn Road, Randolph, Mass., for a variance, seeking relief from Section 27-9, Table 1, for the conversion of an existing 7-bedroom dwelling unit into a 2-family dwelling unit in an R3 zone located 977 Warren Avenue.
Good afternoon, John Fink. I'm an attorney at Sims & Sims here in Brockton. I live at 7 Leonard Lane in Holbrook, Massachusetts. With me is Emmanuel Lamy.
I got to interrupt you. Could you just introduce yourself again? I couldn't catch it.
John Fink. I'm an attorney here in Brockton at Sims & Sims. I live at 7 Leonard Lane in Holbrook, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
With me is Mr. Emmanuel Lamy, who is your applicant. He is seeking a variance at 977 Warren Avenue, Brockton, Massachusetts. I would add to that, we will likely have the same special permit issue relative to the deck as the last petition did. This applicant has added a 6x6 deck to the second floor as a means of egress. So the existing building is a single-family, 7-bedroom, 3-bathroom home in an R3 district on Warren Avenue. The lot sizes there are reasonably small given the size of the houses. There are at least 6 on each side of the block with 1 additional. It doesn't fit the general area, which is multifamily. So Mr. Lammy is seeking a variance to be able to divide this up a top and bottom. It would fit well with the rest of the neighborhood. He hits the requirements under 40A Section 10 because of the structure's uniqueness, at least as to where it is, being a single-family home, and at that, a very large one in a very dense population zoning area. So he would have difficulty making any commercial use of it, given its size and its location relative to other rental units in the area and in tight quarters. So we would be asking for that there. Relative to the back deck, Mr. Lammy has, I got ahead of myself. There will be 2 parking units. They are side-by-side parking. You have a map there in the back. The green space will be largely unaffected, so there will be ample room and parking there. The proposed new kitchen is on the 2nd floor. It will be located on the street side. The stairway is largely in the center of the house. If you look at page A11 of the drawings, where he's laid out the home there, you'll see that it comes in dead center. The orientation is to the left here. And it creates kind of a circular area. There are stairs that go up to an attic space, and he couldn't very well turn those into downstairs stairs. So the general layout is the middle is going to be stairs. So adding in another staircase is difficult, hence why he's got it here on the back with a 6x6 deck and a means of egress down into the back of the unit, or back of the home.
So, can I just ask, this was 7 bedrooms in
Yeah.
one home?
I'm told it is a 7-bedroom, 3-bathroom home. I believe that there are the existing plans laid out in this arrangement. It is it's like an old mansion-y kind of a thing.
It's currently vacant.
Is anybody in there? It is currently vacant.
So he didn't live here?
No,
Prior?
he purchased it from the prior owners in May of this year.
What's the hardship?
The hardship is the structure itself. It's an R3 zoning, and it is a very large home. So he's not going to be able to make good commercial use of the size of that structure where it is located, with the dense housing side by side, as well as the multifamilies being in this tight area. There are 6 homes on either side of that block, and one even on top of that. So it's very dense, except this one home is not. Now, he needs the variance because he has just shy of the 10,000 square feet, and he needs the 12,000 square feet. But it's not typical in that area for them to even have the full 12,000.
So what you need is relief from 10,000 because it's going to be a 2-family house.
I believe it's 12,000 is
But
what's
3.
required. Yeah.
But you're asking to be a
2.
2-family.
Then I did my math wrong, and it's 10,000, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we understand that tonight, if this is granted, what you're being granted here is for a 2-family dwelling. It cannot morph into a 3 or 4 or whatever you want to put there. So it's a single family you're asking to become a 2-family.
That is correct.
Okay. Also, similar to the last case, you're going to have to explain to us why you need a special permit to put that deck on the rear of the building, and explain to us what that's all about.
Sure. So if you come up on A11, you have a picture of the proposed drawings for the new home. On the left, there is a staircase that comes up, and the essential proposed plan and the layout of the existing stairs puts the staircase dead center to the home. You're entering kind of in the middle area there. In addition, there has to be room for stairs that go into the attic space, which are existing. So in order to work that in with the second means of egress at its best location, if you look at it, it's tight with the kitchens and the bedrooms each occupying essentially a corner. So the way to do that without having a staircase right next to another staircase is to put it in the back of the building. And he's proposing that with a 6x6 deck.
And also, from the drawing here, this deck only will service, and the stairway will only service the 2nd floor.
That would be the intention, yes.
There will be no stairway to the top floor.
There will correct. The top floor is not intended to be dwelling. The very top is the attic space. That is not a dwelling unit. There will not be a bedroom up there. That is Nothing? There will be a bed, oh, okay. There's an existing two-bedroom up in the top area there. So apparently, it will be living space, but it will not be a separate unit. It's a two-unit home.
Okay, so the intention is to have living space on the top floor.
There's currently living space on the top
Bedroom.
floor, yeah.
When you have these 2 bedrooms on the top floor, those 2 rooms have to be occupied by the same people that live on the second floor.
Yes,
They
we would agree with
cannot
that.
be a separate apartment. So if there is family on the second floor that is going to use the top floor, you can use the single interior stairway. If this was to be used for another family, you would have to put a second stairway. That is not your intention.
This is two-family, that's the application, and that's the intention.
Okay, so what we're talking about tonight is possibly granting a variance to allow this to become a 2-family on an undersized lot with an undersized frontage, and you have given us a hardship on that, with the understanding that the exterior stairway will service as a second means of egress for the second floor. If the top floor is used, it can only be used by those same people that live on the second floor.
Yes.
We all good on that?
Yes.
Mr. Building Inspector, that's correct? Board members, any questions? Everybody's good?
Yep.
Okay, I'll close that. Oh, I know what I gotta add. Your parking in the rear. Your plans show that each parking space is 9 by 18. Our zoning says that it has to be either 9 by 20 or 10 by 18. It has to be 180 square feet. You are not asking for relief from parking size. I don't understand why you can't conform to the required parking, which would either be 9 by 20 or 10 by 18.
You are correct, there's
I think you got
nothing,
plenty of room to do that.
there is room, yeah.
Okay, so you're not asking for any relief from that. All right, board members, we're all set. Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll ask if there is anyone here that wants to speak in opposition. Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official in the room that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given tonight? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I will now open it up for board member discussion. Board members.
Yeah, this is another one that I easily see, fitting into the neighborhood. The parking, with that understanding is suitable, and the structure itself, as long as it's designed for, 2-family, I don't have an issue.
So I think we've got to be very careful that we stipulate that this shall be no larger than a 2-family house. I think that's very important to put in there. They're not asking for relief from parking, so they agreed that those will be 180 square feet. What else did we discuss?
Special permit for the deck.
Excellent. So we want to consider the deck that you saw on the plans. He explained to us why the deck is needed. In our deliberations, we will have to make sure that we're okay on that. I just got to ask one question. On your plans here, on the landing that's halfway between floor 1 and floor 2, there's no supporting columns going to the ground. Is that something that was just left off the plan, It's kind of unusual. Are you the architect?
I'm not.
Is this going to be hung off the building, or is it going to be standing?
Here.
It would make sense if there was something there.
Yeah.
All right, board members, any other questions? All right, now, before we take a vote, I would suggest that whatever vote we take would include both the granting of a variance and granting of a special permit. And I will say that in the decision on the last one, I am going to include granting of the special permit with granting of the variance. I don't think we need to take two votes on this thing.
Okay.
It's all inclusive, it's all the same location. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, he demonstrated a hardship. He's okay with the parking. We understand the stairway in the back.
Motion to grant?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant with the stipulations. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lannis,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry,
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that is 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted with the variance and the special permit.
Thank you all.
The next petition, 2544, has been postponed till next month. Petition number 2545, the petition of Philip C. Nazarella, 1063 North Main Street, Brockton, Mass., for a variance seeking relief from Section 2725 and Section 279 to construct a residential structure on Plot 24. Relief from lot size and setback. Also, relief for Plot 23 to become slightly less conforming in an R1C zone located at Plot 24 Gladstone Street. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Philip Nasrallah representing Mr. Vincent Aiello, who is here with me this evening and is the applicant and prospective purchaser of this property. I was here some time ago to seek a permit and a variance for this particular lot. And the discussion ensued as to whether or not this was a merged lot with other lots. Now, this type of debate has gone on with a lot of lots in the city of Brockton. At one time in 1880, this was two separate lots, divided, separate and apart by themselves. As time went on, deeds were created, and deeds had running description, meets and bounds, but referring to lots A and B. Yet, in some perspectives, the law has interpreted that as being one lot. It does not take into account what the intent of the author was when they created the deed. A lot of lawyers, whether they be real estate lawyers or non-real estate lawyers, are not aware of the consequences when you do a running description. A lot believe that, well, if we said Lot A and Lot B, that's what it is. Well, that's not how it's been interpreted. That's not how the zoning board interpreted it. So to eliminate any further discussion back and forth as to whether or not it's a single lot, which it was when it started out to be, we appeared before the Brockton Planning Board, who subdivided the property and made this a freestanding lot by and of itself. So we are here this evening for the purposes of allowing a variance for us to build upon that lot, seeking setback requirement, lot size, area, and rear, etc. In the basis we are doing that, this particular lot on Gladstone Street is one of the older sections in the city of Brockton. I grew up on Conner Center and Lyman. Gladstone was up the street, and all of the homes in that area, all the properties were 5, 8, 10,000 square feet. The position that I've always had is that the zoning code, if it were to be enforced, let's say on a piece of property like this, and we could get 30,000 square feet. If the essence of zoning is to create a orderly development of a neighborhood, and we were to stick a large house on a 30,000 square foot lot where we have all 5, 8, 9,000 square foot lots, would that be orderly development, or would be a sore thumb sticking out? So what we're proposing here is to allow us to build on the lot that was originally created to be a buildable lot with the setback requirements, and it would be without any incongruity to the surrounding neighborhood. It would be more congruous to what already exists. It would be a furtherance of what already exists. Mr. Aiello is a master builder. He's been in construction all his life, and he can assure the city what will be there will be satisfactory, what will be admired, and it will be giving use to a vacant piece of land. Right now, all of those lots, most of them that I have observed, are all being utilized, and with the demand of housing, we need housing in an orderly development. Creation of a structure, a residential structure on that lot will be in keeping with all of the other lots in the area, and it will give benefit to the city of Brockton, as well as the tax base, but more particularly the purpose. I always hesitate to say the tax base as though, giving money to the city is going to get us what we want, but it gives a use to the property, and that's the purpose of the property. And that was, I believe, some of the thinking behind the grant by the planning board. Let's give use to this piece of property where there's an old rickety barn that should be torn down. So we ask that the board take that into consideration and allow this to be used what it was originally intended for, and has always been, without any change. And you may also note, because I know one of the final questions is, what's the hardship? This here is not a square, it's not a rectangle, it's what I forgot when I was in math class, that odd shape where one part is small, one part's big. That's a hardship because it's going to be hard to juxtapose a piece of property in there, but it will be done, hence the reason we need the relief by the city. And as I was speaking to someone outside earlier this evening, if we had to go by the strict letter of the law, the black letter, I wouldn't have to be here. It'd be like a vending machine. Press the button, I would know I'm in or I'm out. I'm seeking the relief from the board, looking at this with its common sense, with its understanding of what these areas are in Brockton. If it was a swath of land like on Cypress Drive, and you said, no, I want 25 to 30,000 square feet, I can appreciate that, and I don't see how many lawyers would argue against it. But I'm taking a new law back into an old neighborhood. I think it makes more sense, and it's more aesthetically pleasing to allow it to be built like all the other homes are in the area. So with that, I would ask for your gracious vote, and I would be receptive to any questions you may have.
Board members, any questions?
What was the last decision from the planning board on this one?
The last decision, the date of it?
Yeah, when was the date and what was it for, just to refresh my memory?
Planning board,
Right,
it would have been 2 months ago.
okay,
There was two things. It was definitive subdivision plan and then permission to return to ZBA.
Okay.
Two separate hearings back and down.
Well, we were here in the December for the hearing.
The ZBA, but the
We-
planning board.
I'm sorry.
I guess that was me.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, just to finish something else that was in my mind, one of the other thoughts that I had was I was here one evening, I think it was in January, and I heard a presentation that sounded somewhat comparable to what my facts were, and I think it was on Lawn Street, right around the corner, again, from where I lived. It was Falconeri may have been the thing. Sounded like a similar case. We have a deed to the property, separate deeds, and we have 2 lots, and we're ready to proceed on that basis. So this is not an unprecedented request that I'm looking for.
Is there any particular reason why you did not submit a deed for this property with your presentation?
I have a deed in escrow. I have a deed, copy of it in my file here. A deed, if this were to be denied, he would be subjected to paying the seller for a lot that he can't do anything with. But I have a deed.
Okay, so there's no deed.
No, I do have a deed.
I'm just saying that you're telling us you have a deed, but we don't see a deed.
I'm going to give it to you. I'm just going through this.
Apparently, at one time, years ago, this was all one piece of property, and it was subdivided, and a house was constructed on the south end of the lot. That's probably, 8, 10 years ago, somewhere around there. And that lot was subdivided in an irregular shape in order to get square footage, apparently, for this house that was built, that is currently in place on the south end of the original lot. So that house that's not in question tonight sits on an odd-shaped lot. That lot that you're talking about tonight, 24, was created in odd shape because apparently of the unique shape of the house that was granted several years ago that is currently on the south end of the lot. So that lot, lot 24, that irregular shape of the lot was created in order to allow for the construction of the other house. The other question that I had, it says in your application here that you're asking for relief from plot 23
Yes.
by allowing it to become less conforming. Can you explain to us what that's all about?
Well, again, the current law is that we have to have 30,000 square feet. That is less than that. It's pre-existing non-conforming use, but with allowing this to be a separate lot and build on it, that will be a little bit less non-conforming. In fact, it would be anyways because it's been divided. So that may be an irrelevant request now that the property's been divided. It is what it is based on what is that, lot 23?
So how can we take land away from plot 23?
It's been divided. You haven't taken it away. It's been subdivided.
So the plan that you're submitting tonight shows that the land that you're talking about taking away from plot 23 has already been taken away from plot 23
Correct.
in this plan.
Yes.
How much land did you take from plot 23?
The subdivision just signed by the planning board back in May to create plots 23 and 24 was basically an exact duplicate of the plan that was created and recorded in 1888. So that plan was created in 1888. The plan that we just submitted to the planning board was the exact same plan. It was just to update it and get a plan on record that would satisfy the Board of Appeals. But the house at number 22 Gladstone has always sat on plot number 23. There's a separate assessors plot. It's called plot number 23.
So do you own plot 23?
Yes. The owner owns 23 and 24.
Same owner for both places?
Exactly. The applicant is
Correct.
going to buy 24 upon your granting of variance to construct a new house from the owner of plot 23.
So the owner of plot 23 and 24, the owner created this change in the plot line between 23 and 24.
It's the same lot line that's been there since 1888.
So why are we saying we took land away from 23? That's the confusing part.
I don't think we took any land away from 23.
No, we didn't take any land, but I was anticipating the question may come up, well, is 23 going to be, is going to be now more non-conforming? Because at one time, the board looked at this as all one lot. That issue has been extinguished by having the planning board create the subdivision by recognizing what previously existed. So I put that in my application in the event, I never know what can anticipate comes out for questions, so it was put in there, but it's really not relevant because you're not affecting 23 now.
It's because the way the deeds are written, where it's that one running description, not the two separate meets and bounds.
That's correct.
If you folks consider them to be merged lots, then I think Attorney Mazzarella is saying by dividing the property, now that one merged lot that's existing non-conforming is becoming more non-conforming, so that's why you put it in there to add relief, if you consider it to be a merged property.
But the lot we're dealing with tonight strictly is plot 24.
Correct.
So we have documentation here saying the appeal process hasn't even started for the planning board decision yet.
I'm sorry, the what?
We have documentation from the planning board. The planning board approved the definitive subdivision for this location at the June 25 meeting. The appeal period has not yet begun, as the approval letter has not yet been filed with the city clerk.
I believe the city clerk signed the plan Thursday. I delivered the MyLars for this one and the Warren Ave plan that you just previously saw on Thursday. city clerk. They were both, they were both acted on at the same planning board meeting, and I would assume the letters of approval were filed at the same time, but they were submitted to the clerk's office last Thursday, and
That was my understanding also from speaking to Mr. Isaiah Thelwell, that it had all been processed. As he had told me a month ago, it was signed off by the planning board, and it was going to take its normal course, and from what,
But it hasn't. Apparently, right here, it says the appeal period has not yet begun.
when was that issued?
Today.
Yeah,
Today?
this is a note from the planning board that we received.
So if there's an approval from the planning board, now it has to have an appeal period. Usually, I would think the appeal period starts right after the granting by the planning board. Apparently, in this case here, something has happened, and the appeal period was never applied for, or it never started.
That would have been on behalf of the city, was that?
Well, I mean, it has to be open for anybody that wants to appeal the decision of the planning board.
No, what I'm saying is I would have nothing to do with that. That would be the normal process from the clerks and administrative process.
I mean, from our point of view in filing this for tonight's meeting, the first one on board after this one, we were going under the same assumption. They were approved at that meeting. They were filed, as I said, they were filed with the city clerk, and I was told that the appeal period on both of those had expired. To bring the MyLars to the clerk's office for his signature and then his subsequent delivery to the planning board. We were told that both those lots, the Warren Ave lot and this lot, the appeal periods had expired. That's why we proceeded with the meeting tonight. The Warren Ave one, we were on the agenda for last month, we closed, we continued,
Right.
because that appeal period hadn't started yet.
Well, that one was either not started or was in the middle of the appeal period. It had not concluded. In this case here, the appeal period, for some reason, has not even begun.
Like I said, we were told everything was.
It's hard to believe.
That the two lots were, the approval letters were submitted at the same time, and the appeals had left at the same time, and, not that matters, but I would show you the emails from the planning department telling me to bring the MyLars down to the clerk's office last week.
Well,
Not that that changes anything, but that's at least why we came forward tonight, that if we had that letter, an hour ago, we would have continued.
Yeah.
If we were made aware of that, we were, like I said, I got emails saying.
I could suggest this to Mr. Chairman. As you know, you have X amount of days by which you could vote on this. It doesn't have to be tonight. And
no, that's not our policy. We will take a vote tonight. That's what our policy is.
well, if that's your own in-house policy,
Yes, it
that's
is.
your policy, but
If that,
there's no harm to the city by continuing it, rather than putting us in a position where we'd have to start this all over again, third time. There's no, for lack of a better phrase, skin off the city's nose by holding this, and that's the reason why they have that provision in the statute, that you have up to 90 days by which you can make a vote.
or just continue the hearing, vote on it the next ZBA meeting once we have that issue resolved.
I mean, we have no control over the timing of when an appeal starts. We know when it's going to end, but we have no control over that, so
Let me ask the
reasonably would have understood it would have been already done by now.
Mr. Chair, I do know that some MyLars were signed off in the past couple of days. I'm not sure if it was this. I would just maybe make a suggestion, if you guys want, if you could contact someone, just a suggestion, maybe we could take the next case.
No, we're not.
Okay.
My question to you was, in the policy of the planning board, what is the policy relative to initiating the appeal period? Who initiates that?
That is all in the planning department, not the planning board, so I do
Okay.
not know.
Just from history, I mean, Chief, back in the day, it was Stan Gurley that did it. Now I believe it's either Isaiah or Road writes the letter. And similar to the Board of Appeals, it doesn't happen the next day, but usually within a week of the hearing, the approval letter goes down to the clerk's office, and typically we get a copy of the letter at the same time as the applicant, the engineer, and attorney.
Well, obviously, something has happened where this approval, or the beginning of the 21-day appeal period, has not started. And that is part and parcel to the granting by the planning board. So we're at a little bit of a dilemma here. I think it's difficult for this board to vote on this parcel if we don't have the final blessing of the planning board, and the final blessing would include any potential appeal. I think it would be very awkward if we grant a variance tonight to do this, and then somebody appeals the decision. Now, you've got a
Be
problem with
negated.
your planning, and now you've got a problem with zoning.
Well,
So,
the zoning decision would just be negated. If it was voted for on the affirmative and somebody exercised the right of appeal, we would agree that the vote would be negated. It would be,
We look pretty foolish in the meantime.
no, I don't, well, how, the position I'm in was not a cause of us.
we don't know.
Listen, I completely understand what you're saying, but it's not a cause of us either.
No, I'm not saying it is.
But I think an easy solution would just be, and I know it's not your typical policy, would be just to continue the meeting till next month. Nothing changes, we just continue. Every single board continues meetings, nobody votes. Typically, nobody votes on things that they have a meeting, they always get continued. Every board in the city continues meetings. And public meetings that have public notices and other notifications, they get continued, 1 meeting, 5 meetings. Conservation, a subdivision has been continued for 2 years now.
And that's why we're the,
That's
why we're the zoning board.
Continued it until the August meeting. By then, well, then, like I said, if we got this letter an hour ago, we would have just,
we only have it here now since we walked in. We get an update from them. This is nothing we get ahead of time either.
so if we just continue it like we would do in any other board in this city or any other city in town, then there's no issue with anybody. We're okay with it. You know, it doesn't put anybody in a bad spot. If we get denied because of that, then we're gonna go back to the planning board a second time for permission to return to the CBA the third time.
Well, there appears to be, in my mind, a lack of information that's going to be necessary for this board to make a decision. One of the options that we have as a board is to allow the petitioner to withdraw due to the lack of information that's needed in order to make an informed decision. That would have to be a vote of the board. If this had come up prior to the start of the meeting, none of this would have happened, okay? But you're telling us you have a deed, which you showed us tonight, which should have been provided to us prior to this. We should have got something from the planning board, or you should have provided something to the planning board that the 21-day period had expired and there was no opposition. I mean, there's a lot of things missing here. So I will suggest that one of the things that we can consider as a board is that usually within a hearing, we cannot allow anybody to withdraw without a formal vote of the board. If you want to continue the meeting based upon the information that's in front of us, we can do that. If you feel as though the information that we need tonight is lacking, is it the fault of the petitioner? Is it the fault of the system? The problem is we do not have the information that we need to make the decision. So I will open that up to the board to kind of deliberately.
Can I just ask
Go ahead.
more of a, and Mr. Deputy, you might be able to know, if they withdraw, we allow the withdrawal, can they get into the August meeting?
That'd be a question for Monica.
Sorry.
Is that,
If they withdraw this evening, would they be able to get into the August meeting? So then the appeal period would be over and we would know that and be able to vote on it then. So we're not pushing them to September, October, November.
The deadline's Thursday.
Yeah, so you,
Okay.
so they would,
We would be using the same application.
and wouldn't have to go back to planning, nothing.
You would just have to pay for the letters fee and the advertising, which doesn't start till after Thursday.
So the reason I bring that up is this. If you withdraw and you go to the August meeting, it would be the same as if we continued it anyways, and we're not kind of breaking what we normally do by allowing it to continue. What we're doing is we're putting you in a position, correct me if I'm wrong, I hope I'm not speaking out of school, but now they're able to withdraw, get into the August meeting, after the appeal's done, we move on from there. And everything's clean.
just as an example, we had a case tonight where there was insufficient information for us to make an informed decision. The petitioner realized that and asked to withdraw prior to the start of the hearing, and they are going to come back next month without prejudice. In this case, we have started the hearing, we're into the hearing, and we have now reached a situation where either we continue with the hearing and make our decision based upon what is in front of us, or if the board so desires, we can close this meeting, postpone it until next month when you would have particular information. And that would have to be done without going through the planning board all over again.
So, Mr. Chair, do they ask to withdraw and then we make a motion? Is that how it would work? Would they have to request to withdraw?
Yes, they would, but before that happens, I just want the board to understand that we would have to vote to allow them to withdraw. They could ask to withdraw and we could deny it. And
Understood.
continue with the hearing.
Well, and what's the distinguishing feature between the postponement or the withdrawal? You had mentioned postponement.
We would withdraw from tonight's hearing because we are lacking specific information that the board wants to make a decision. We will allow you to get that information and come back to us next month.
Okay. By the way, Mr. Chairman, do you have accessibility for Zoom? I'll be in Beirut, and actually there's probably less heat there than there is here. But would there be, do they do any Zoom or?
Usually we do not. We do in person.
Okay. I'll figure alternative plans. But we'd like to get it done then if we can.
But you understand the bumps in the road here.
I understand.
And I don't think it's fair for us to make a decision based upon the lack of information. So we can say, we will not allow you to withdraw, we're going to continue with the meeting, and whatever happens. As a matter of courtesy, I'm suggesting that's an option for the board.
And so you're excluding a vote, and it would be conditioned upon the appeal being exhausted. And if appeal was raised, the vote would be just either negated or stayed.
If you can't get through the planning board, there's no point in coming to us. Yeah, but you haven't got through the planning board, that's my point.
Because of the appeal.
Correct.
So we're looking to withdraw, file on Thursday. In the meantime, we get everything straightened out between the city clerk and the planning board. Come back on August 10th or whatever it is. We have a sign, we can do something.
And what is the reason that you're requesting to withdraw?
Lack of signed plan and expiration of the appeal hearing in the planning board.
I agree.
I'll make a motion to allow the withdrawal.
Second.
Motion is made and second to allow the petitioner to withdraw with the intention of appearing at the August meeting. I think if it goes beyond that, we're going to have to go all over again, so.
Understood.
You agree to that?
Understood.
All right, the motion's been made to allow them to withdraw. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lannis?
Yes.
Chief Nardelli?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Okay.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. We will allow the petitioner to withdraw due to the lack of specific information needed by the board, with the intention of coming back with that information at the August meeting.
Thank
Make
you.
sense?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
One more. All right, the next petition is 2546, the petition of Paul Tantilio, 258 Boylston Street, Brockton, Mass. For a variance, seeking relief from section 2765, standing sign setback, and provide and maintain a minimum yard setback of 10 feet for all standing signs in an R1C zone located at 455 Oak Street.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Paul Tantillo, 258 Boylston Street, Brockton, Director of Operations at Fuller Craft. We are looking to put a sign at the back entrance of Fuller. If you're familiar with it on Oak Street, there is a big sign at our main parking lot. There is also a back parking entrance to the back parking lot, which is our accessible entrance, and there's no sign letting people know, so they often pull into the wrong parking lot or they stop on the street. We've been trying to get a sign up there for a long time. If we put the sign within compliance with the 10-foot setback, it would be in the woods. It would be about 22 feet away from the street. It would be difficult to see. I think it would be unsafe for drivers. So we're seeking a variance to put it about 10 feet back from the sidewalk.
When I looked at these plans, I was really confused as to where you were putting this sign. I went up there and took a look at it, and I found 2 stakes on that west driveway.
Yes,
And I suspected this may be where they want to put the sign.
that's exactly correct. I actually have a photo. I brought a photo if anyone wants to see it.
So where I saw those stakes, are those 10 feet back from the sidewalk?
Yes, exactly. The one that's closest to the sidewalk is 10 feet back from the sidewalk. So there'll be 10 feet of grass between the sign and the sidewalk.
Okay, so the ordinance says you can't be less than 10 feet. If you're 10 feet or more, you're fine.
Correct, that's why we're seeking the variance to be closer to the sidewalk. No, 10 feet from the property line,
Right, from the sidewalk.
but that's not the property line.
Where is the property line?
It's about 10 feet back from the sidewalk. So I'm gonna be right at the property line.
All right,
On the close-up, there's the property line right there, and there's the sidewalk right there.
Where's the sign?
The sign's gonna...
All right, yeah, I got you, I'm sorry. But
are you familiar with where this is?
well, I looked at the stakes, but it doesn't look like it's a big, looks,
It looked like it was 10 feet back to me.
yeah. So I think it's a play on words that he's stuck in, and I don't, no disrespect
We were
to
told
that.
10 feet
No,
back
no,
from the
no.
property line.
That's my point. So what I think is your property line puts you in a weird spot because of the way it is set back from then the,
Yeah, I mean, the other sign is over the property line.
We're not talking about that one.
Understood.
And
Yeah.
I think you've already got a variance for that sign many years ago.
Correct.
Okay. Unless you are putting up an LED sign, then you're going to have to get permission.
No.
All right. In this picture, it would appear to me that your property line is the backside of that sidewalk. You're telling us it's not?
Not according to the survey.
Where is your property line in relation to the sidewalk?
right at the edge of, is it right at the edge, is it right at the edge of the street?
The property line, so right there on the drawing, that's the curb.
And how many feet back is that then? 10?
Well, right there, from the property line to the end of our driveway is 10 feet. So that's about right about where the sidewalk is also. So right there. The property line comes way back onto that if you know that grassy area right by that entrance, the property line comes back onto that grassy area.
So the sidewalk is actually quite a ways into the city layout.
Correct.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, now I'm starting to understand
Okay.
this.
Sorry.
So the lines that we see here, the shadows from the Edison wires, this probably...
Yes.
That's where your property line is.
I did see the shadow. Yeah, right, yes. That's right about where the property line is.
Can I see it?
All right, so now that we've decided that this is where the sign is going to be located, can you explain to us what this... You did give us a picture, didn't you? It was... I had it here somewhere.
Can I see this?
Yeah, go ahead.
People are going to stand up here. So the sign has to affect anything.
On this one? I stapled it to it, that's what, I got it, yeah, right here. So this is 24 inches wide,
It should be 30.
30 inches wide and 5 feet high.
Correct.
Okay.
Not very big.
All right, so one of the concerns I have is that visibility coming out of this driveway. Can you come out this driveway?
Yes.
Looking to the right, we have to make sure that you're not creating a visual obstruction to looking at cars on Oak Street.
Absolutely. It'll be far enough back to give you a good sight line. That's very important to me. I, as a side, ran a driving school for 17 years. How are the kids?
Yeah, good, thank you. Okay.
That's actually one thing that's getting improved with the other sign too. It's getting pulled back from I'll have better visibility when we're leaving.
So your argument to us is this sign with these two stakes that we see is basically sitting on the property line.
Correct.
If we move it 10 feet back, we're going to be into the woods.
Correct.
Gotcha there. So your hardship here is the visibility of the sign and the unique layout of Oak Street in relation to your property line.
Yes.
Because looking at this, I would say, why are they coming before us? You've got plenty of room. Okay, I will just say as a thought that we should, if we're going to grant them relief from setback, I think we should be specific on a footage, whether it be 2 feet back. I don't think we should allow them to put it on the property line. There is no need to put it on the property line. But if we grant them 8 feet of relief so that they're 2 feet back.
How far will that put them back? Will the sign be able to be seen with 2 feet? I know, but it's hard to.
I know, it's not much.
So you're saying 2 more feet back?
Yeah, from where those stakes are.
Okay.
I think you can see the sign fine.
I think so. So that'd be like 12 feet back from the sidewalks.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound bad.
So rather than give you 0 relief, we will allow you to get 8 feet closer to the street than
Okay.
what's allowed.
That sounds
makes
good.
sense for you?
Yes, sir.
So when we deliberate, I just want to have that understanding. Now, the other thing that we should consider as a board is most likely this sign is going to be within 100 feet of a residential area because of the apartments across the street. So
Not sure if they're within 100, but property is.
it's to the property line, which is the other side. Now, we don't know where that sidewalk is, if we don't know where your side. But the point I want to make here is there's a section in our ordinances that says that you can't have this sign within 100 feet of a residential area. So you should be asking for relief from that
Okay.
as part of your presentation tonight. That would go hand in hand with your setback.
Okay, thank you. I would
Yeah.
like relief from that too.
I would suggest that probably there is no other place to put this sign. It has to go right where it is. This sign is not going to be an LED?
No, not going to light up at all.
Okay.
It'll be reflective.
So there's no internal light, no external light?
No.
Very low key then?
Yes,
And it lights up by headlights?
correct. And if you look, we're only putting the logo on it because we're not trying to make it, have people think that that's the main entrance. We're just trying to identify the accessible entrance.
Okay, I got you. Okay, board members, any other questions of the petitioner? Everybody's good?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official in the room that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that has any question relative to the testimony that has been given? Seeing none, I will close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I will now open it up for board deliberations. Board.
My take on this is when you go down Oak Street and it widens out when they built E.W. Fields Park, the city took a swath of land that was probably what we always talk about, the 50-foot streets, right? They took accessible further than that. And what he brings to us tonight, because when I looked at this first, I couldn't understand why we were even dealing with this. But that property line being that 10 feet, that's probably just city land right there. And that's all it is. So it's the way Oak Street was probably built back in the day when they received the deed to D.W. Fields Park. That's my opinion, and that's why it put him in the precarious position that he's in. I think this is a kind of a simple.
It wouldn't appear that there's going to be any widening of Oak Street in that area. It looks like
No.
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So he's asking for relief from the 100-foot distance to the residential area, and he's asking for relief from side yard setback or property line setback. I guess what we want to determine is, do we want to give him 0 setback? Do we want to give him 2 feet of setback? What's your thoughts?
I don't really, it has such setback already. It's 6 in one, half dozen in the other to me.
The only reason, my only concern, and I didn't think of it, I thought of it the same way as you, Mr. Sweeney. My only concern is if they come to redo those sidewalks and they damage his sign, because it's right on the property line with the sidewalk. That's my only concern.
That's why I'm thinking we should give him some relief.
At your back door.
I think
Yes.
I think a foot or two.
Yeah, that's what I mean. 2
It's
feet,
fine, yeah.
then nothing's going to get damaged. I mean, that's just my opinion.
So we'll grant him 8 feet of relief, so the sign sets 2 feet back from the property.
Perfect.
Is that what the board is thinking?
Yep.
I would agree.
And it is not an LED. He says it's not lighted. It seems to be very inconspicuous.
Yeah.
And by setting it back like that, we are diminishing any sight lines looking
Yep.
west on Oak Street.
I'll make a motion to grant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant with the stipulation of 8 feet of relief with a 2-foot setback. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Landis?
Yes.
Chief Nardelli?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that is 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. And what we have granted you is 2 feet back from where you are.
Property line. Thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
All right, before we end this evening's meeting, keep in mind that traditionally in August, we have had an election for chair and vice chair of the zoning board. So will you plan on next month of holding a vote on what we're going to do for the next year? Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.